The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 12 star systems in the past 3 months. Their massive fleet of crystalline warships moved through space like a glittering storm of death, leaving nothing but debris and silence in their wake. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge, watching the latest human colony burn on the view screen before him. Another pathetic resistance crushed, he said to his second-in-command, Commander Veltar. These humans fight like children with sticks against our superior technology. The Zephyrians were tall, elegant beings, with translucent blue skin and eyes that glowed like sapphires. They had perfected energy manipulation over centuries, turning their very bodies into living weapons. Their ships were grown rather than built, crystalline structures that could bend light itself into devastating beam weapons. For 3 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been systematically destroying human colonies on the Outer Rim. The humans had tried everything: diplomatic envoys, trade negotiations, even offering tribute. Nothing worked. The Zephyrians saw humanity as an inferior species, worthy only of extinction. Commander Veltar pulled up a tactical display showing the next target. Kepler 442b, sir. Intelligence reports indicate it's a major agricultural world with approximately 50 million human inhabitants. Their defense grid consists of outdated plasma cannons and a small patrol fleet. Admiral Kethvar's crystalline features formed what humans might recognize as a smile. How many ships do they have defending this world? 12 frigates and 3 destroyers, sir, all using primitive chemical propulsion and basic energy shields. Our scout ships report their weapons can barely penetrate our hull plating. The Admiral activated his personal communicator, sending a message across the entire fleet. All commanders prepare for jump to Kepler 442b. We will demonstrate once again why the Zephyrian Empire is destined to rule this galaxy. These humans will learn that resistance is futile. Across the fleet, 200 Zephyrian warships powered up their quantum drives. Each ship was a work of art, shaped like a massive crystal spear with energy coursing through its translucent hull. The smallest destroyer in their fleet was larger than anything humanity had ever built. The largest battleships stretched over 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. As the fleet prepared to jump, Admiral Kethvar reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. The humans had been sending distress signals across their communication networks, begging for help from their government on Earth. But Earth was too far away, and the human military was spread thin across dozens of colonies. No help would come. The jump coordinates were locked in. Kepler 442b was a beautiful world, with vast oceans and continents covered in golden grain fields that fed dozens of other human colonies. After today, those fields would be ash. Sir, Commander, Veltar reported, all ships report ready for quantum jump. Excellent. Begin the jump sequence. Space around the Zephyrian fleet began to shimmer and distort. The massive crystalline ships seemed to stretch and blur as they prepared to fold space-time itself. In moments, they would appear in the Kepler system, ready to rain death upon another human world. Meanwhile, on Kepler 442b, Governor Sarah Chen stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching the same intelligence reports that had reached the Zephyrians. Her hands trembled as she looked at the massive enemy fleet preparing to attack her world. How long until they arrive? She asked her military advisor, Colonel James Torres. Based on their previous attack patterns, approximately 6 hours. We've evacuated the major cities and moved as many civilians as possible to the underground shelters, but 50 million people can't hide from weapons that can burn continents, Governor Chen finished grimly. Colonel Torres nodded. Our defense fleet is taking position around the orbital platforms. Admiral Morrison knows it's hopeless, but they'll buy us as much time as they can. Governor Chen looked out through the reinforced windows of the command center. In the distance, she could see the lights of New Sacramento, the planet's capital city. 3 generations of humans had built this world into something beautiful. Tomorrow it would all be gone. Any word from Earth Command? She asked. The same message, ma'am. All available fleet elements are engaged in defensive operations. Earth cannot spare any ships for a relief mission. It was the answer they had expected. Earth's fleet was already stretched to the breaking point, trying to defend the core worlds from Zephyrian advances. The outer colonies were on their own. In orbit above Kepler 442b, Admiral Patricia Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance. Her small fleet was taking defensive positions around the planet, but she knew they were vastly outgunned. Her ships were tough and her crews were experienced, but they were facing an enemy that had never lost a battle. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, "We're detecting quantum distortions at the edge of the system. The Zephyrian fleet is beginning to arrive." Admiral Morrison watched as space itself seemed to tear open, and the first crystalline warships began emerging from their quantum jump. One by one, 200 enemy vessels materialized in perfect formation. The smallest of them dwarfed her largest ship. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," she broadcast to her fleet. "We knew this day would come. We're not going to win this fight, but we're going to make them pay for every meter of space. Our job is to buy time for the civilians below and show these alien bastards that humans don't go quietly into the night." The response from her captains was immediate and unanimous. "Aye, Admiral, we're with you." As the Zephyrian fleet began moving toward the planet, Admiral Morrison felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. She had served in the Earth Defense Force for 30 years, working her way up from a young ensign to fleet command. She had always known that someday she might have to make the ultimate sacrifice for humanity. Today was that day. "All ships, charge weapons and prepare for combat," she ordered. "Let's show them what humans are made of." The stage was set for another one-sided massacre. The Zephyrian Empire had superior numbers, superior technology, and 3 years of unbroken victories. Their triumph was assured, just as it had been at every previous battle. What Admiral Kethvar didn't know was that Earth Command had been hiding a secret. Deep in the classified archives of the Earth Defense Force was a project that had been decades in the making. A ship unlike anything humanity had ever built before. And at that very moment, the USS Black Star was preparing to change everything. Admiral Kethvar stood watching the human defense fleet arrange itself in a pathetic defensive formation around Kepler 442b. 15 small ships against his armada of 200. The humans were brave, he would give them that, but bravery without power was meaningless. "Sir, the human fleet is hailing us," Commander Veltar reported. "Put them through. I want to hear their final words before we destroy them." The main screen flickered, and Admiral Morrison's face appeared. She was an older human female with short, gray hair and determined eyes that reminded Kethvar of a predator backed into a corner. "Zephyrian Fleet, this is Admiral Patricia Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. This world is under the protection of the United Earth Government." Kethvar's laugh was like the sound of wind chimes in a hurricane. "Admiral Morrison, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world will be cleansed of human presence within the next few hours. You have 2 options. Flee now and live a few more days, or stay and die with honor. I care little which you choose." Admiral Morrison's expression didn't change. "We choose to fight. This world has 50 million innocent people who call it home. We won't abandon them to monsters like you." "Then you will die for nothing," Kethvar replied, cutting the transmission. The Zephyrian fleet began its advance. The crystalline ships moved with deadly grace, their hulls glowing with contained energy. As they approached the planet, the human defense fleet opened fire first. Streams of plasma and missile barrages flew toward the alien ships. The weapons struck the Zephyrian shields and dissipated harmlessly, like raindrops hitting a mountain. In response, the Zephyrian ships fired their own weapons. Beams of pure light lanced out from the crystalline vessels. Where they struck human, ships' armor plating simply vanished, leaving gaping holes in the hulls. The UES Valiant took a direct hit to its engine section and exploded in a brilliant fireball. The destroyer UES Thunder lost its entire forward section, but continued fighting. "Sir," Commander Veltar reported, "the humans are proving more resilient than expected. Their ships are absorbing considerable damage before being destroyed." Admiral Kethvar nodded approvingly. "Yes, their engineering is crude but sturdy, no matter. Continue the advance. I want this battle over within the hour." On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Morrison watched her fleet being systematically destroyed. They had managed to damage a few enemy ships, but nothing serious enough to stop them. Her tactical officer gave her regular updates that grew grimmer by the minute. "Admiral, we've lost the Valiant, Thunder, and Courageous. The Resilient is venting atmosphere and requesting permission to withdraw." "Negative," Morrison replied firmly. "All ships maintain positions. Every minute we hold them here is another minute for the evacuation shuttles to reach the outer settlements." Below on the planet's surface, the evacuation was proceeding as quickly as possible. Massive transport ships were lifting off from spaceports across the planet, carrying as many civilians as they could hold. But with 50 million people, they could only save a fraction of the population. Governor Chen watched the battle from the command center's observation deck. Flashes of light marked where human ships died, each one representing hundreds of brave men and women who had chosen to fight rather than flee. "Ma'am," Colonel Torres said quietly, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. It's unusual." Governor Chen turned away from the carnage above. "Put it through." The communication screen activated, showing the face of Admiral Rebecca Hayes, the Chief of Naval Operations for Earth Command. Hayes looked tired, but there was something else in her expression. Hope. "Governor Chen, Admiral Morrison, this is Admiral Hayes. I'm transmitting on an encrypted emergency channel. Help is coming. I repeat, help is coming. Hold your positions for exactly 47 minutes and 18 seconds. Governor Chen exchanged glances with Colonel Torres. "Admiral Hayes, with respect, what help? Earth Command told us no ships were available." "That's still true, Governor. But there's something else. Something we've been building in secret for the past 15 years. I can't tell you more over this channel, but you need to trust me. Hold for 47 minutes. The transmission ended, leaving both women staring at a blank screen. Above the planet, the battle was reaching its climax. Admiral Morrison's fleet was down to 7 ships, all of them damaged. The Zephyrian fleet was beginning to move into bombardment positions around the planet. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet is deploying for planetary bombardment. Their lead ships will be in firing position in 12 minutes. Morrison looked at the tactical display. Her remaining ships were scattered and barely functional. They had fought with everything they had, but it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Prepare for final attack runs. We're going to ram as many of their ships as we can. Take some of these bastards with us." The response from her captains was immediate. "Aye, Admiral. It's been an honor serving with you." Admiral Kethvar watched the desperate human attack with something approaching respect. The remaining human ships were accelerating directly toward his fleet, their weapons firing continuously. They knew they were going to die, but they were determined to inflict as much damage as possible. "Admirable courage," he said to Commander Veltar. "Wasted on an inferior species, but admirable nonetheless. Destroy them." The Zephyrian fleet focused its fire on the incoming human ships. One by one, they were blown apart before they could reach their targets. Within minutes, only the Defiance remained, its hull glowing white-hot from enemy fire, but somehow still intact. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the human flagship is still approaching. It appears to be using its remaining power to boost its forward shields." Admiral Morrison felt the deck plates beneath her feet growing hot as enemy fire pounded her ship. Explosions echoed through the corridors as systems failed one by one. Her crew worked frantically to keep the ship moving forward. "Admiral," her helmsman called out, "we're not going to make it. They're going to destroy us before we can ram them." Morrison gripped her command chair as another massive explosion rocked the ship. "Keep going. Even if we can't reach them, we need to buy every second we can." On her personal chronometer, she watched the countdown. Admiral Hayes had said to hold for 47 minutes. They had held for 45. 2 more minutes. Just 2 more minutes. The Defiance shuddered and began to break apart under the concentrated fire from dozens of Zephyrian ships. Morrison could see the crystalline hull of Admiral Kethvar's flagship growing larger on the screen as they approached. 1 minute, she whispered to herself. Just 1 more minute. But the ship couldn't take any more punishment. A massive explosion tore through the engineering section, and Admiral Morrison felt the deck give way beneath her feet. As she fell into darkness, her last thought was a prayer that whatever help was coming would arrive in time. Admiral Kethvar watched the human flagship finally explode in a brilliant flash of light. "Impressive," he said. "They held longer than I expected. Begin planetary bombardment. I want this world reduced to ash within the hour." The Zephyrian fleet began moving into position around Kepler 442b, their weapons powered up, preparing to rain death on the 50 million humans below. The crystalline ship seemed to glow with anticipation of the coming destruction. It was then that something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to ripple and tear at the edge of the system, but this wasn't the familiar distortion of a quantum jump. This was something else entirely. "Sir," Commander Veltar said, his voice filled with confusion, "I'm detecting a massive spatial anomaly. Something is coming through, but it's not using any technology we recognize." Admiral Kethvar turned to look at the tactical display just as a single ship emerged from what looked like a tear in reality itself. The vessel was unlike anything he had ever seen, angular and dark with strange markings along its hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "What is that?" he demanded. Before anyone could answer, the newcomer began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice was human, but there was something different about it, a confidence that bordered on arrogance. "Zephyrian Fleet, this is Captain David Sterling of the USS Black Star. You will cease your attack on this world immediately and withdraw to a minimum distance of 1 light-year from this system." Admiral Kethvar stared at the strange ship on his screen. It was alone against his fleet of 200 vessels. One ship. The audacity was so incredible that he almost admired it. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 200 to 1. Withdraw now, or be destroyed." Captain Sterling's response came back immediately. "Admiral, you've been fighting humans for 3 years. Today you're going to learn the difference between a human and humanity unleashed." Captain David Sterling stood on the bridge of the USS Black Star, looking at the massive Zephyrian fleet arrayed before him. His ship was surrounded by 200 enemy vessels, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything humanity had fielded before. But Sterling wasn't afraid. He had been preparing for this moment his entire career. The Black Star was the culmination of 15 years of secret research and development. While the Zephyrians had been conquering human colonies, Earth's best scientists had been working on something revolutionary. They had taken human technology and pushed it beyond all known limits, creating weapons and systems that defied conventional physics. "Captain," his tactical officer, Commander Lisa Park reported, "the Zephyrian fleet is moving to surround us. 200 ships in a standard encirclement pattern." Sterling nodded calmly. "Let them come. Helm, take us to full stop. I want them to get a good look at us." The bridge of the Black Star was unlike anything on other human ships. Instead of traditional displays and controls, the crew interfaced directly with the ship's systems through neural links. The technology was dangerous. It required years of training and genetic modifications to use safely. But it allowed the crew to react at superhuman speeds. "Sir," Commander Park said, her eyes glowing faintly as she accessed the ship's targeting systems through her neural implant, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups across the enemy fleet. They're preparing to fire everything they have at us." "Good," Sterling replied. "Let's see what they've got." Admiral Kethvar stared at the strange human ship that had dared to challenge his entire fleet. The vessel was roughly the same size as his own flagship, but its design was completely alien to human engineering principles. Instead of the smooth curves and functional shapes of typical human ships, the Black Star was all angles and edges, like a piece of crystallized shadow. "Commander Veltar, what can our sensors tell us about that ship?" "Very little, sir. It's emitting some kind of interference field that's blocking most of our scans. What we can detect shows armor plating that doesn't match any known human alloys, and power readings that can't be correct." "What do you mean?" "Sir, according to our sensors, that single ship is generating more power than our entire fleet combined." "It has to be a sensor malfunction." Admiral Kethvar's crystalline features darkened. He had underestimated human technology before, but this was impossible. No single ship could generate that much power without destroying itself. "All ships target the human vessel. Fire on my command." Across the Zephyrian fleet, weapons powered up. Hundreds of energy cannons and particle beam arrays focused on the black star. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Fire. Space erupted in a storm of energy as 200 Zephyrian ships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of coherent light and streams of exotic particles converged on the human ship from every direction. The display was so bright that the view screens automatically dimmed to protect the observer's eyes. When the light faded, Admiral Kethvar expected to see empty space where the human ship had been. Instead, the black star hung motionless exactly where it had been before. Its hull showed no damage whatsoever. "Impossible," Commander Veltar whispered. Captain Sterling smiled as the enemy barrage ended. The Black Star's shields had absorbed the attack without even fluctuating. The ship's defensive systems were based on technologies that Earth scientists had reverse-engineered from captured Zephyrian equipment and then improved upon dramatically. "Is that all?" Sterling broadcast to the Zephyrian fleet. "I was expecting something more impressive from the species that's been terrorizing human colonies for 3 years." He turned to Commander Park. "Show them what human engineering can really do. Target their flagship." Park's fingers danced over her control interface as her neural implants interfaced with the ship's weapon systems. "Target locked, Captain. The enemy flagship is directly ahead at 40,000 kilometers. Fire." The Black Star's main weapon was unlike anything that had ever been mounted on a starship. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, it fired controlled tears in space-time itself. The weapon appeared as a thin black line that stretched from the Black Star to its target, and everything in that line simply ceased to exist. The beam struck Admiral Kethvar's flagship amidships. The massive crystalline vessel, 5 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to destroy planets, was cut cleanly in half. The two sections drifted apart, their crystalline hulls dark and lifeless. Admiral Kethvar had just enough time to register what had happened before his flagship's life support failed. His last thought was that humanity had somehow learned to weaponize the void itself. "Sir," Commander Veltar called out from his position at the emergency command station on one of the surviving bridge sections. "Admiral Kethvar is dead. The flagship is destroyed. We need to retreat." But there was no time for retreat. The Black Star was already moving, accelerating at speeds that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Its next target was a Zephyrian battlecruiser that had been preparing to bombard the planet. The same black beam lanced out again, and another massive ship simply vanished. Then another, and another. The Zephyrian fleet, which had been confidently moving into bombardment positions just minutes before, was now scattering in panic. Ships that had never known defeat were fleeing as fast as their quantum drives could carry them. "All ships," Commander Veltar broadcast to the surviving fleet. "This is Acting Admiral Veltar. Implement emergency retreat protocol. Jump to Rally Point Gamma immediately." But the Black Star was faster than their retreat. As Zephyrian ships attempted to charge their quantum drives for emergency jumps, the human vessel was among them, its reality-tearing weapons striking again and again. Each shot was perfectly placed, precisely targeted to cause maximum destruction. Captain Sterling watched the enemy fleet's formation collapse into chaos. Ships that had moved in perfect coordination minutes before were now colliding with each other in their desperation to escape. Some Zephyrian vessels attempted to fight back, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the Black Star's shields. "Commander Park, how many enemy ships have we destroyed?" 47 confirmed kills, Captain. "The remaining ships are attempting to jump to hyperspace, but we're jamming their quantum drives." "Good. Let a few of them escape. I want them to carry word back to their empire about what happened here." Down on Kepler 442b, Governor Chen and Colonel Torres watched the battle from the Planetary Defense Center. What they were seeing didn't seem possible. A single human ship was destroying an entire Zephyrian fleet. "Ma'am," Colonel Torres said, his voice filled with awe, "scanners are showing massive explosions throughout the enemy fleet. Whatever that ship is doing, it's working." Governor Chen nodded, unable to speak. She had watched Admiral Morrison's fleet die heroically, fighting against impossible odds. Now she was watching those same impossible odds being turned upside down by a single mysterious vessel. "Colonel, try to establish communication with that ship. I want to know who they are." "Yes, ma'am." The communication came through just as Captain Sterling was targeting another Zephyrian battlecruiser. "Unknown vessel, this is Governor Chen of Kepler 442b. Can you identify yourself?" Sterling's voice came back clear and strong. "Governor Chen, This is Captain David Sterling of the USS Blackstar. We're here to end this war. Captain, how is this possible? You're destroying ships that our entire fleet couldn't even damage. Governor, for 3 years the Zephyrians have been hunting us like animals. They thought they knew everything about human technology. They were wrong. We've been preparing a surprise for them. On the tactical display, another Zephyrian ship vanished in a flash of non-existent light. The enemy fleet was now down to fewer than 100 vessels, and more were being destroyed every minute. Sir, Commander Park reported, the remaining enemy ships are managing to jump out of the system. Should we pursue? Sterling considered the question. The Blackstar could follow them, could hunt down every ship in the fleeing fleet. But that wasn't the mission. The mission was to send a message. Negative. Let them go. They'll report back to their empire that humanity isn't as helpless as they thought. The last of the Zephyrian ships vanished into quantum space, leaving behind only debris and the slowly expanding clouds of gas that had once been their mightiest warships. The Battle of Kepler 442b was over, and for the first time in 3 years humanity had won a decisive victory. But Captain Sterling knew this was only the beginning. The Zephyrians would be back, and next time they would come prepared for human surprises. The Blackstar had bought humanity time, but the war was far from over. Set course for Earth, Sterling ordered. It's time to let Command know that Phase 1 is complete. As the mysterious ship turned toward home, the people of Kepler 442b looked up at their sky and saw something they hadn't seen in years. Hope. 3 days after the Battle of Kepler 442b, the surviving Zephyrian ships limped into the Altair system, their crystalline hulls scarred and their crews traumatized. Acting Admiral Veltar stood in the temporary command center aboard the battlecruiser Crystal Dawn, trying to compose his report for the High Command. How do you explain the impossible? How do you tell the most powerful military force in the galaxy that a single human ship had destroyed over half of their most elite fleet? Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a priority transmission from the homeworld. The High Council demands an immediate report. Veltar straightened his uniform and activated the quantum communicator. The image that appeared was that of Supreme Admiral Zethmar, the greatest military mind in Zephyrian history and commander of all Imperial forces. Acting Admiral Veltar, the Supreme Admiral's voice was like ice grinding against crystal. Explain to me how a fleet of 200 ships was defeated by a single human vessel. Veltar swallowed hard. Supreme Admiral, the humans have developed technology beyond our current understanding. Their ship was able to penetrate our shields and armor with weapons that appear to manipulate space-time itself. Impossible. Our intelligence reports indicate that human technology is centuries behind our own. That's what we believed, sir. We were wrong. The human vessel demonstrated capabilities that exceed even our most advanced prototypes. They were faster than our fastest ships. Their shields absorbed our most powerful weapons without damage, and their primary weapon simply erased matter from existence. Supreme Admiral Zethmar's crystalline features showed no emotion, but Veltar could sense the fury radiating from the older officer. One ship, Acting Admiral. One ship defeated 200 of our finest vessels. Yes, sir. Then we will send 2,000 ships. Alert all fleet commanders. I want every available vessel mobilized for a strike on the human homeworld. If they have developed new weapons, we will destroy them before they can build more. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, the USS Blackstar was docking with Titan Station, humanity's most secret military facility. Built inside one of Saturn's moons, the station had been hidden from Zephyrian scouts for over a decade. It was here that humanity's greatest secret had been developed. Captain Sterling walked through the station's corridors, past laboratories where scientists worked on technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics, neural interface technology, quantum manipulation systems, weapons that could tear holes in reality itself, all of it developed in secret while the galaxy burned around them. Admiral Rebecca Hayes was waiting for him in the main briefing room, along with Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, the lead scientist on the Blackstar project. Hayes looked older than when Sterling had last seen her, the weight of command and 3 years of losing war taking their toll. Captain Sterling, Admiral Hayes said, standing as he entered, congratulations on a successful first mission. The reports from Kepler 442b are extraordinary. Sterling took a seat at the conference table. The Blackstar performed exactly as designed, Admiral. But this was just a test run. The Zephyrians will respond with overwhelming force. Dr. Reeves activated a holographic display showing the battle analysis. The ship's systems recorded everything. The reality distortion weapon functioned perfectly. The quantum shields held against concentrated fire from 200 ships, and the neural interface systems allowed for reaction times that exceeded Zephyrian capabilities by a factor of 10. Admiral Hayes nodded, which brings us to the next phase. Captain, how many more ships like the Black Star can we build? That's the problem, Dr. Reeves interjected. The exotic materials required for the reality distortion drive are incredibly rare. We can maybe build 12 more ships with our current resource base. Sterling leaned forward. 12 ships against the entire Zephyrian Empire? They have thousands of vessels. Which is why we can't fight a conventional war, Admiral Hayes said. We need to change the rules of engagement entirely. Dr. Reeves, explain Project Prometheus. The scientist brought up a new set of displays showing ship designs, unlike anything Sterling had ever seen. These weren't traditional starships, but rather mobile weapons platforms that looked more like mechanical spiders than spacecraft. Project Prometheus is our answer to the numbers problem, Dr. Reeves explained. Instead of building more ships like the Black Star, we're building ships that can build themselves. Self-replicating constructor vessels that can harvest raw materials from asteroids and construct an entire fleet within weeks. Sterling studied the designs. Automated warships? Not exactly. Each constructor ship would be crewed by volunteers who undergo the same neural modifications as your crew. But their job isn't to fight directly. They command swarms of automated combat drones, each one linked to the human operator through quantum entanglement. Admiral Hayes brought up another display showing fleet projections. One constructor ship could theoretically produce 1,000 combat drones within a month. 10 constructor ships could match the numerical strength of the entire Zephyrian Empire. Sterling saw the potential immediately, but he also saw the dangers. What about the neural modifications? How many people can undergo the process safely? Dr. Reeves's expression grew somber. That's the limiting factor. The modifications required to interface with our advanced systems are extensive and dangerous. We estimate a 30% fatality rate during the procedure. The room fell silent. They were talking about asking thousands of people to undergo a procedure that would kill 1 in 3 of them. We've had no shortage of volunteers, Admiral Hayes said quietly. After 3 years of watching colonies burn, people are willing to take that risk. Sterling understood. He had undergone the neural modifications himself, spending months in agony as microscopic machines rewired his nervous system. The process had given him superhuman reflexes and the ability to interface directly with the Black Star's systems. But it had also changed him in ways that were hard to describe. Sometimes he felt more machine than human. How long before the first constructor ships are ready? He asked. 6 weeks, Dr. Reeves replied. We're converting 3 of our largest shipyards to build them. But we need time, and the Zephyrians aren't going to give us time. Admiral Hayes activated another display, this one showing intelligence reports from across human space. Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting massive fleet movements throughout Zephyrian space. They're mobilizing everything they have for a strike on Earth. Sterling studied the reports. The numbers were staggering. The Zephyrians were assembling a fleet of over 3,000 ships, including their most powerful dreadnoughts that had never been deployed against human forces before. When will they arrive? He asked. 4 weeks, possibly 5 if we're lucky. They're gathering ships from across their empire, so it's taking time to coordinate the fleet movements. Sterling did the math in his head. The constructor ships would be ready in 6 weeks, but the Zephyrian fleet would arrive in 4. That left humanity with a 2-week gap where they would be completely vulnerable. What about the rest of the Earth Defense Force? He asked. Admiral Hayes's expression grew even grimmer. After 3 years of fighting, we have maybe 200 ships left that are combat ready. Against 3,000 Zephyrian vessels, they wouldn't last an hour. So it's up to the Black Star to hold them off for 2 weeks. 1 ship against 3,000, Dr. Reeves said. The Black Star is powerful, but it's not that powerful. Sterling stood up and walked to the observation window, looking out at the rings of Saturn. Somewhere out there, the greatest military force in the galaxy was preparing to destroy humanity's homeworld. Earth, with its blue oceans and green continents, would be reduced to a lifeless rock, unless 13 humans with computer chips in their brains could somehow stop them. There might be another way, Sterling said slowly. The Black Star's reality distortion drive doesn't just tear holes in space. It can manipulate the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Dr. Reeves looked intrigued. What are you thinking? What if we don't fight them ship to ship? What if we bring the fight to them before they can reach Earth? Admiral Hayes frowned. Captain, you're talking about taking one ship into the heart of Zephyrian space. That's suicide. Sterling turned back to face them. Maybe. Or maybe it's the only way to save humanity. The Zephyrians think they know what we're capable of now. They've seen the Black Star fight, so they'll come prepared with new tactics and weapons. But they won't expect us to attack them at their staging area, Dr. Reeves said. Understanding Sterling's plan, exactly. We hit them before they can organize their assault on Earth. Disrupt their fleet formations, destroy their command ships, force them to fight on our terms instead of theirs. Admiral Hayes was quiet for a long moment, considering the proposal. It's incredibly risky. If the Black Star is destroyed, we lose our only effective weapon against the Zephyrians. If we wait for them to come to Earth, we lose everything anyway, Sterling replied. At least this way we control the engagement. The Admiral made her decision. Do it. Take the Black Star into Zephyrian space and give them a war they'll never forget. Sterling nodded grimly. Understood, Admiral. We'll show them that humanity doesn't wait to be hunted. The facility erupted into chaos as security forces converged on the high-security block. Maya and her team moved with deadly precision, their years of training and combat experience allowing them to work together seamlessly, despite their long separation. Rodriguez and Kim took point, clearing corridors with synchronized movements that hadn't lost their edge despite 3 years of imprisonment. Okafor and Thompson covered their rear, ensuring no enemies could surprise them from behind. Maya coordinated their advance while simultaneously hacking into the facility's systems. Prisoner blocks are on levels 3 through 7, Maya reported as they fought their way toward the power core. Approximately 400 people total. Guard response time? Rodriguez asked while placing charges on a security checkpoint. 6 minutes to mobilize heavy weapons. 12 minutes for full lockdown protocols. Then we have 5 minutes to reach the core and start the overload, Kim calculated. They moved faster, no longer trying to avoid detection. Speed was more important than stealth now. Maya's enhanced abilities allowed her to process multiple data streams simultaneously, tracking guard movements, monitoring system status, and planning their route all at once. The power core was located at the facility's heart, protected by multiple layers of security. But Maya had studied the schematics during her approach, and she knew the designer's weakness. They had assumed attackers would come from outside, not from within. Thompson, I need you to access the environmental controls, Maya ordered as they reached the core chamber. Flood the prisoner levels with emergency lighting and unlock all cell doors. On it. Okafor, start broadcasting on all frequencies. Tell everyone this is a Federation rescue operation and to evacuate to the escape pod bays. What about the guards? Tell them too. Some of them might be smart enough to run. The power core was a magnificent piece of engineering, a contained antimatter reaction that provided energy for the entire facility. Maya began working on the control systems, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to input commands faster than the safety protocols could engage. How long do we have once you start the overload? Rodriguez asked. 37 minutes until critical containment failure, Maya replied, her fingers flying over the controls. The facility will be completely destroyed along with everything within a 50-kilometer radius. And the teleporter? Maximum range is 40 kilometers. We'll need to time it perfectly. Explosions echoed through the facility as the first escape pods launched. Maya's heart lifted as she saw hundreds of life signs moving toward evacuation points. The prisoners were escaping, but so were many of the guards and technical staff. Containment field destabilizing, Maya announced as warning lights bathed the core chamber in red. Overload sequence initiated. They had done it. In 37 minutes, this place would be nothing but expanding plasma and debris. But first, they had to survive long enough to escape. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. The facility's elite guards had arrived, armed with military-grade weapons and powered armor. Looks like someone wants to discuss our evacuation plans, Kim said dryly. The battle was intense but brief. Maya's team had position and experience while their enemies had numbers and firepower. Plasma bolts and projectile rounds filled the air as both sides fought with desperate determination. Maya felt a round graze her shoulder, but the nanobots in her system immediately began repairing the damage. She returned fire with precision shots that found gaps in enemy armor, each hit calculated for maximum effect. Core chamber secured, Rodriguez reported as the last enemy fell. But we've got more company incoming. Time to go, Maya said. 28 minutes until detonation. They fought their way back through the facility, now racing against time and increasing enemy resistance. The escape pods were launching steadily, carrying prisoners and guards alike to safety. Maya felt a fierce satisfaction watching the life signs disappear from her sensors. Whatever happened to her team, hundreds of innocent people would survive. Teleporter range in 15 minutes. Thompson called out as they reached a major intersection. Guard reinforcements arriving from the main garrison, Okafor warned. Maya made a quick decision. Kim Rodriguez, take the express route to my ship. Thompson and Okafor with me. We need to make sure everyone gets out. We're not splitting up, Rodriguez said firmly. That's an order, Sergeant. You're not our commanding officer anymore, Jess. We're all dead, remember? Maya felt a surge of emotion. These people had risked everything to serve with her, had followed her into impossible situations, had trusted her with their lives. She couldn't abandon them now. Together then, she said. But we move fast. They reached the final prisoner block just as the last escape pod launched. Maya's sensors showed the facility was almost empty now. Just a few dozen people still aboard. Most of those were probably guards who had chosen to fight rather than flee. All civilians evacuated, Kim reported.
It's just us and the hostiles now. 12 minutes to detonation, Maya announced.
Time to call our ride. She activated the experimental teleporter, feeling the familiar tingle as quantum fields engaged around her team. The technology was based on Federation research that had been years ahead of its time, using controlled micro-wormholes to transport matter instantaneously across short distances. Teleporter locked onto our ship, Maya said. But the range is still too close. We need to get to the outer edge of the facility. They ran through corridors that were beginning to shake as the power core became increasingly unstable. Emergency lights flickered and died. Gravity fluctuated wildly. The very structure of the asteroid was beginning to break apart. 5 minutes, Thompson called out. Maya could see their destination, an observation deck that extended from the facility's outer hull. From there, the teleporter should have just enough range to reach their ship. They were 50 meters away when the blast doors began to close. Maya's enhanced speed kicked in, time seeming to slow around her as adrenaline and genetic modifications combined. She reached the door controls just before they sealed, her fingers working frantically to override the lockdown. The blast doors ground to a halt with just enough space for her team to slip through. 2 minutes, Rodriguez announced grimly. Maya activated the teleporter one final time, praying that the experimental technology would work when they needed it most. Quantum fields enveloped them, reality seeming to stretch and compress simultaneously. For a moment that felt like eternity, Maya existed in multiple dimensions at once. She could see the facility breaking apart behind them, could feel the antimatter containment beginning its final collapse, could sense her team's life signs scattered across probability space. Then they materialized on the bridge of the Shadow Runner, the ship's artificial gravity reassuring them that they had successfully escaped. Emergency burn, maximum velocity, Maya ordered as she dove for the controls. The ship accelerated away from the facility just as the antimatter core achieved critical failure. Maya watched through the rear sensors as the asteroid that had been their prison became a brief, brilliant star. All escape pods accounted for, Okafor reported. 437 survivors total. Federation response teams are incoming, Kim added. Looks like someone noticed the fireworks. Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They had done it. Her team was safe, the prisoners were free, and a hegemony intelligence operation had been completely destroyed. 6 months later, Maya stood in the office of Admiral Sarah Chen, the head of Federation intelligence. The official debriefing had taken weeks, but the results spoke for themselves. The rescued prisoners had provided intelligence that led to the dismantling of 3 more secret facilities. The hegemony's post-war intelligence network had been crippled. So what happens now? Maya asked. Admiral Chen smiled. That depends. Jessica Torres is still officially dead, and the Federation would prefer to keep it that way. But Maya Chen could have a very interesting career in intelligence work. And my team? They've all accepted positions with a new special operations unit. Completely off the books, naturally. They're waiting to see if their old commanding officer wants to join them. Maya looked out the window at the stars beyond. She had tried the quiet life, tried being a normal person with a normal existence. But some people weren't meant for quiet lives. When do we start? She asked. 3 years later, Professor Kellogg was teaching his advanced Galactic history class when a student raised her hand with a question about post-war intelligence operations. There are rumors, the student said, about a group called the Phoenix Protocol. Supposedly they're Federation operatives who specialize in impossible missions. Professor Kellogg's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. The Phoenix Protocol is probably just a myth. Story soldiers tell to make themselves feel better about impossible odds. But what if it's real? Then, the professor said with a slight smile, I would imagine they're very busy people. In the back of the classroom, a quiet student with brown hair and unremarkable features took careful notes. To everyone around her, Sarah Martinez was just another aspiring diplomat studying galactic relations. But when class ended and she walked out into the crowd of students, she moved with the deadly grace of someone who had learned that sometimes the best way to protect peace was to be very, very good at war. Maya moved through the maintenance tunnels of the prison facility like a ghost. Her enhanced senses allowed her to detect guard patrols before they could see her, while her modified reflexes let her disable security systems with surgical precision. The facility was a maze of corridors and chambers carved directly into the asteroid. The artificial gravity was lighter than standard, making movement easier but requiring adjustment to her combat techniques. Maya adapted quickly, using the lower gravity to perform maneuvers that would have been impossible under normal conditions. Her first objective was the facility's main computer core. If she could access it, she might be able to locate her friends and map the prison's layout more accurately. The core was heavily protected, but Maya had dealt with worse during the war. She bypassed 3 separate security checkpoints, each one requiring different skills. The first used biometric scanners that she fooled with synthesized DNA samples from her medical kit. The second relied on pattern recognition software that she confused by altering her movement signatures. The third was an old-fashioned pressure sensor that she simply avoided by moving along the ceiling. The computer core was a massive chamber filled with quantum processing units and data storage arrays. Maya connected her portable interface and began downloading everything she could find: prisoner manifests, guard rotations, facility schematics, communication logs. What she found made her blood boil. The facility wasn't just holding Federation prisoners. There were civilians here too. People who had been taken during the war and never returned. Scientists, doctors, engineers, all being forced to work on hegemony projects. Her friends were in the high-security block, just as she had suspected. But they weren't alone. The entire surviving roster of Ghost Protocol was here, along with several other special operations units that were supposed to be dead. Maya downloaded the guard schedules and found a window of opportunity. In 6 hours, there would be a shift change that would leave the high-security block with minimal coverage for exactly 17 minutes. It would have to be enough. She made her way toward the prison blocks, avoiding patrols and security cameras. The facility was designed like a fortress, with multiple defensive layers and choke points that could be sealed in case of emergency. Maya noted each one, planning her escape route as carefully as her infiltration. The high-security block was a separate structure connected to the main facility by a single, heavily defended corridor. Maya could see guards at every checkpoint, automated weapons tracking any movement, energy barriers that could slice through armor. But Maya had fought through worse defenses during the war. She had learned that every security system had weaknesses. Every guard had blind spots. Every fortress had a way in if you were smart enough to find it. She accessed the facility's environmental systems and began making subtle changes. A slight increase in carbon dioxide levels that would make the guards drowsy, a minor adjustment to the lighting that would create shadows where there had been none, a fluctuation in the artificial gravity that would disrupt the automated targeting systems. When the shift change came, Maya was ready. She moved through the corridor like liquid death, her enhanced speed allowing her to cross open spaces before sensors could lock onto her. Guards fell unconscious before they knew they were under attack, their neural systems disrupted by weapons that left no permanent damage. The prison block itself was a series of cells arranged around a central monitoring station. Maya could see her friends through the transparent aluminum walls, and her heart nearly broke at their condition. They were alive, but they looked thin and tired. Rodriguez had a scar across his cheek that hadn't been there during the war. Kim's left arm was in a support brace. Okafor looked like he had aged 10 years, but they were alert. When they saw her approaching, their eyes lit up with hope and determination. Thompson actually smiled, the first time Maya had seen him show emotion in years. "Took you long enough," Rodriguez whispered, as Maya began working on the cell locks. "Traffic was terrible," Maya replied, her fingers flying over the electronic systems. "Everyone ready for a fighting retreat?" "We've been ready for 3 years," Kim said. Maya had brought extra equipment for her friends, basic armor and weapons that would give them a chance in a firefight. As they geared up, she explained her escape plan. "The ship is docked at Maintenance Port 7. We have maybe 20 minutes before someone notices the guards are down. After that, this place is going to be crawling with hostiles." "What about the other prisoners?" Okafor asked. Maya had been hoping they wouldn't ask that question. "There are too many to evacuate. We'd never make it out with that many people. We can't just leave them here," Thompson said firmly. "We can come back for them once we've alerted the Federation." "The Federation thinks we're dead," Rodriguez pointed out. "How long do you think it'll take to convince them to mount a rescue operation for people who don't officially exist?" Maya knew he was right. If they left the other prisoners behind, those people might disappear forever. The hegemony would simply move them to another facility, and the trail would go cold. "There's another way," Maya said reluctantly. "We could disable the facility's main systems, create enough chaos to give everyone a chance to escape. But it would be extremely dangerous." "Define extremely dangerous," Kim said. "The facility's power core is antimatter-based. If we overload it, the explosion would destroy the entire asteroid." Her friends exchanged glances. They had always been willing to sacrifice themselves for others. It was what had made them such effective soldiers. "How long would we have?" Rodriguez asked. "Maybe 30 minutes after we start the overload sequence. Enough time to evacuate the prisoner blocks, but not enough time to reach minimum safe distance. Unless," Thompson said slowly, "we could use the facility's own escape pods." Maya checked the schematics she had downloaded. There are emergency pods scattered throughout the facility, but most of them are designed for short-range evacuation. They wouldn't get us far enough away, but they might get the prisoners to safety, Okafor pointed out. Maya realized what they were suggesting. They would sacrifice themselves to save hundreds of innocent people. It was exactly the kind of mission they had volunteered for during the war. "There's one other option," Maya said. "My ship has emergency teleportation capability. Short range, very limited capacity, but it might be able to get us out after we start the overload." "Might?" The teleporter is experimental technology. It's never been tested under combat conditions. Rodriguez grinned, the same reckless expression she remembered from their wartime missions. "When has that ever stopped us?" Alarms began blaring in the distance. Someone had found the unconscious guards. "Decision time," Maya said. Her friends looked at each other, and she saw the same determination in their eyes that had carried them through the darkest days of the war. "Let's go save some people," Kim said. Maya felt a surge of pride and affection for these brave souls who had been her family. They were about to attempt something impossible, dangerous, and probably suicidal. It was exactly the kind of mission Ghost Protocol had been created for. Maya began her preparations immediately. She couldn't use official Federation resources, but she had learned long ago that the galaxy's black markets could provide almost anything for the right price. Her first stop was a seedy bar in the lower levels of New Geneva City, far from the university district. The clientele was a mix of smugglers, mercenaries, and other people who valued anonymity over safety. Maya had changed into dark clothing and altered her appearance with simple makeup techniques, transforming herself from a student into someone who belonged in this environment. She found her contact in a corner booth, a grizzled human named Marcus who had run guns during the war for whoever paid best. He looked up as she approached, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on her face. "Well, well," Marcus said in a gravelly voice. "Thought you were dead, Torres." "I am dead, that's why I can pay extra for discretion." Marcus chuckled and gestured for her to sit. "What do you need?" "Transport to the neutral zone. Something fast, stealthy, and expendable." "That'll cost you. The neutral zone is crawling with patrols from both sides these days." Maya slid a credit chip across the table. This is a down payment. There's twice as much when the job is done. Marcus checked the chip and whistled softly. Must be some important cargo you're moving. The cargo is me and possibly some passengers on the return trip. Passengers who might not want to be passengers. You don't need to know the details. Marcus nodded. Fair enough. I can have a ship ready in 3 days. Modified courier vessel. Military-grade stealth systems. Enough firepower to punch through a blockade if necessary. Perfect. Send me the coordinates when it's ready. Maya's next stop was more dangerous. In the depths of the city's old industrial district, she found the workshop of Dr. Elena Vasquez, a former Federation military surgeon who now provided medical services to people who couldn't use official hospitals. Jessica Torres, Dr. Vasquez said without looking up from the cybernetic arm she was installing in a patient. I heard you were enjoying retirement. Retirement is boring. I need some equipment. What kind of equipment? The kind that keeps people alive when everything is trying to kill them. Dr. Vasquez finished her work and turned to face Maya. Combat stimulants, healing accelerators, or something more exotic? All of the above, plus some specialized gear for an infiltration mission. The doctor raised an eyebrow. That's going to be expensive and dangerous to acquire. Money isn't an issue. Time is. For the next hour, Dr. Vasquez compiled a list of equipment that would give Maya a fighting chance. Military-grade nanobots that could heal wounds in real time. Stimulants that would keep her alert and focused for days. Temporary genetic modifications that would enhance her speed and strength. This will hurt, Dr. Vasquez warned as she prepared the injections, and some of the effects might be permanent. I've been hurt before. The process took 3 hours. Maya gritted her teeth as the nanobots rewrote parts of her cellular structure, as the genetic modifications altered her nervous system, as the stimulants flooded her bloodstream. When it was over, she felt like a weapon that had been sharpened to a lethal edge. Meanwhile, she continued attending classes and meeting with the hegemony agents. Each session, she fed them more carefully crafted misinformation while gathering intelligence about their operation. She learned that they had at least 12 operatives on the planet, that they were reporting to a handler named Director Serac, and that they were under pressure to produce results quickly. More importantly, she confirmed the location of the prison facility. During one of their meetings, Vex received a communication that he thought was private, but Maya's enhanced hearing picked up enough to confirm her suspicions about Sigma Draconis. On the third night, Maya made her move. She left her dorm room, as usual, ostensibly heading to another meeting with Krex's team. But instead of going to the dormitory, she made her way to the spaceport where Marcus was waiting with her ship. The vessel was a sleek courier ship called the Shadow Runner, its hull painted in radar-absorbing black. Marcus had done good work. The ship looked unremarkable, but Maya's trained eye caught the subtle modifications that marked it as something special. She's got military-grade everything, Marcus explained as they went through the ship's systems. Stealth drives, particle shields, enough armament to take on a frigate. The previous owner won't be needing her anymore. What happened to the previous owner? Let's just say he had a disagreement with some hegemony patrol ships and lost. Maya familiarized herself with the controls, pleased to find that the ship handled like a military vessel despite its civilian appearance. The flight to Sigma Draconis would take 18 hours through hyperspace, giving her time to finalize her plan. As the Shadow Runner lifted off from New Geneva, Maya felt a familiar mixture of fear and excitement. She was leaving behind the safety of her cover identity and stepping back into the world where she had almost died a dozen times. But she was also moving toward her friends, toward the people who had been her family when everything else had been taken from her. The journey through hyperspace was smooth, but Maya spent the time preparing for what was to come. She studied the prison facility's schematics, such as they were, and planned multiple infiltration routes. She checked and rechecked her equipment, making sure everything was in perfect working order. As they approached the Sigma Draconis system, Maya activated the ship's stealth systems and began passive scanning. The asteroid field was extensive, providing plenty of hiding places, but also plenty of places for enemies to hide. It took 4 hours of careful searching before she found what she was looking for. Hidden in the shadow of a massive asteroid, Connected to it by camouflaged docking arms was a facility that didn't appear on any official charts. The prison was larger than Maya had expected, clearly designed to hold hundreds of inmates. Its defenses were formidable. Energy shields, automated weapon platforms, and what looked like a squadron of patrol fighters. Maya studied the facility through her ship's sensors, looking for weaknesses. The main docking bay was too heavily defended, but there was a smaller maintenance port on the asteroid's far side that might be vulnerable. The facility's power grid had redundancies, but she could see a few critical junctions that might be exploitable. Most importantly, she detected life signs in the prison blocks. Hundreds of them, including a cluster in the high-security section that matched the number of missing Ghost Protocol operatives. Maya began her approach, using the asteroid field for cover. The Shadowrunner's stealth systems were good, but they weren't perfect. If the facility's sensors were as advanced as the rest of their technology, they might detect her anyway. As she maneuvered through the debris field, Maya's enhanced reflexes and spatial awareness served her well. Rocks that would have crushed her ship passed by with meters to spare. She was in her element now, moving through danger with the deadly grace that had made her a legend during the war. The maintenance port was lightly defended, just a simple airlock and a pair of automated sentries. Maya docked the Shadowrunner and began preparing for the most dangerous part of her mission. She strapped on her combat gear, checked her weapons one final time, and activated the genetic modifications Dr. Vasquez had given her. Her senses sharpened, her reflexes quickened, and her strength increased beyond normal human limits. Maya was no longer pretending to be a student. She was Lieutenant Commander Jessica Torres, one of the deadliest operatives the Federation had ever produced, and she was coming for her people. The prison facility had no idea what was about to hit it.